Good morning. This is Minister Sherman, and God has dropped a word that's burning in my spirit. And I can't even get to the title. The message this morning from God is that maximize where you are right now. Fulfill your purpose in where you are right now. Oh my goodness. That's what. Maximize where you are right now. Thank you, G. Maximize where you are right now. Fulfill your purpose in where you are right now. God has a purpose in where you are right now, what you're going through right now. Fulfill the purpose in what God has you right now. Jeremiah says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you, not to harm you, to give you hope in the future." God says, I have a purpose for you. I know the plans for you. I know the thoughts I have towards you. The problem is when we have a desire that's contrary to the thoughts of God. When we have our own plans and we don't get what God plans, there's a conflict. It brings frustration. It brings anxiety. It brings fear. It brings murmuring and complaining because we're trying to have an agenda that's contrary to God's agenda. God says, I know the plans I have for you. But the problem is we know the plans we have for ourselves. And when God does not line up with the plans we have for ourselves, or we not lining up with the plans he has for us, there's trouble in paradise. There's trouble in paradise. Because we want to go beyond where we are. And right now, God is saying, maximize where I have you right now. It's purpose in where you are right now. Yeah, you might want to get out the situation. You might want the bigger house. You might want the mega church. But fulfill where God has you right now. There's purpose in that little church you got. You know what I mean? Mother Betty Sams need your ministry right there on the block. If you move to a mega church, you could be totally out of the will of God because you just missed everybody that God had purpose for you to minister to. Everybody's not supposed to have the mega church. You know what I mean? And then some of us is delayed but not denied. You might be en route to the mega church. But don't be frustrated where God has you right now. You might be en route to the bigger house, but don't be frustrated where God has you right now. You might be in that apartment. You might be in the hood, but you know what? Your neighbor needs ministry. God doesn't waste a moment of time in where he has you. You know what I mean? You might have to, your sickness might have to delay a little longer because somebody need to hear their testimony. Man, God said this with Lazarus. Lazarus was dying. Lazarus was sick. But Jesus delayed to come because in his delay, it built ministry. He says, I was glad I was late so y'all can see my glory. There's glory in the process. There's glory in patience. There's glory in waiting. We don't always have to rush out to try to get everything we know God has for us. God says, maximize where I have you right now. Understand where you are now. Have joy where you are now. Fulfill promise and purpose where you are now. Man, Paul and Silas was in the prison, and they were singing hymns to the Lord. And the earthquake came and opened the door. Now, when the gates opened, they could have ran out. They could have said, "Oh, you know what? God has set us free. Let us run out and run out into the land and get out of this prison." Right, but when the earthquake happened and the guard woke up and the guard said, "Oh my God," the guard was gonna kill himself because he felt all the prisoners got free. He was gonna kill himself. You know what I mean? In that time, I'm the guard and all the prisoners just got loose. Caesar about to kill me, so he's gonna kill himself. But as soon as he got ready to kill himself, Paul says, "Don't kill yourself. We all here. We all here." Paul understood the purpose was not to leave, but the purpose was to stay a little longer because there was somebody that needed to be saved. And guess what? That guard took him all to his house and he saved him and his whole family because he chose to maximize where he was at the moment. And he was in prison. If you were in prison, maximize being in prison right now. Fulfill your ministry before you get out. Don't be so concentrating on getting out and miss everything God has for you on the inside. Fulfill your ministry right now where God has you at. You know what I mean? Don't let your desires override God's desires. Be in tune. Be sensitive to where he has you now. Fulfill your glory. Fulfill his purpose right now. That's the word of the Lord today. Maximize where you are now. Maximize where you are now. Don't try to get to the next step without fulfilling your... God has purpose for you in the next step. Don't get me wrong. It's next step purpose. But don't be so anxious to get to the next step purpose that you don't fulfill your purpose right now. That was the children of Israel. They were so busy trying to get to the promised land purpose that they didn't fulfill the wilderness purpose. Oh, that's a word for somebody. Fulfill the wilderness purpose before you try to get to the promised land purpose. The wilderness purpose prepares you for the promised land purpose. Oh my goodness. The wilderness purpose prepares you for the promised land purpose. Don't try to over skip the wilderness purpose to hurry up to get to the promised land purpose. If you do, you have to stay on the wilderness purpose long. But if you maximize and fulfill your wilderness purpose, you'll be able to transport yourself with God in purpose, in destiny, in favor, in footsteps to your promised land purpose. So that's the word of the Lord today for somebody. Maximize where you are right now in this time. And God will give you everything else he has for you. But don't delay it by complaining. Maximize. Find every position that you can right now in God and do it. Preach, minister. If you're in a small church, minister, maximize, lay hands. Don't be so anxious to get to the mega stuff. Maximize where you are right now. Amen.